everyone and welcome back to my channel. You're getting married and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed when it comes to the organization, and of course you want your wedding to be unique and memorable. And you might be unsure on which points you should focus in order to achieve this. Well, in this video I will remain the three main points that are the essential criteria that will make your wedding really a success. And at the end of this video I will reveal who can help you really make a difference and who can save you hiring a wedding planner at extra cost. But first things first. The most important and most characterizing factor when it comes to your wedding is the choice of the venue. It seems maybe logical once one thinks about it. Of course, if you want an elegant wedding, then you might think about a palace, a mansion, a castle, a tent with crystal chandeliers in a beautiful, elegant garden, or you want it a bit more easygoing and then you want to celebrate maybe in a barn or outdoors, or a tent but that is a bit more, boho style. Well, all of this needs to fit together, and this is going to make a very, very big difference because it's the most visual factor. And you might know that all our memories are visual memories. They're either emotional, but when we think about beautiful things, there's always a picture we have in mind. And this is of course influenced by our surroundings, so that is the venue. So make sure that you really have a place that feels in sync with your wedding theme, with your wedding concept, but also make sure that not only the optics suit your taste and your theme and your concept, but also make sure that you can really realize every single point of the program that you imagine for your perfect day. Meaning, for example, if you want to have a very beautiful dinner, is there enough space for the caterer, or do they have their own chef and a fully installed kitchen? Or when it comes to dancing, can you dance and how long can you dance? How loud can the music be? All these kind of things are very, very important, because it's not only the optics, but you also need to be able to put the action into the venue, meaning all the elements that will build and form this perfect day. And the second factor is the decoration, because an empty venue is a bit sad. So of course, if you want to eat there, you need to decide on the tables, on the setting of the tables, how are they decorated, etc. But I don't want to go into the details. I want to point out that the most important element for decoration is flowers, and I mean real flowers. Now, this is something that might be surprising when you will be organizing your wedding, because most of you will probably not have organized a big event before, and you might be shocked when you will be receiving the quotes of the florist. So a good florist will charge a quite large amount, and it will really cost more money than you think, so check that early on. But I think you can really neglect other decoration elements, but real flowers is a must. But of course you don't need to hire a florist if your budget doesn't allow to do so. You can also do flower arrangements yourself, and here on YouTube you will find many videos on DIY suggestions on how to go about this. But it's really important that you opt for natural flowers, because if they are not natural, people will notice it and they will remember, definitely. On the other hand, when you have beautiful flowers, this will definitely stay in their memory. This is the experience I made. We had a big church and we were quite limited in what we were allowed to do on the benches, but this is why we thought, okay, we need a very big flower arrangement in the church itself, and that's what we did. And it was just one big one. I mean, I think there were, and two bouquets on the chairs where we were sitting, and it was it. But you can do it very intelligently, and also think about saving money when asking maybe some of your friends to take some of the flower arrangements with them when they drive from church or where the civil wedding is held, or wherever, if there should be two different venues, that they transfer it from wherever the ceremony is held to the reception venue. There you can save money, and beautiful flowers will always be a remembrance. And the third very important point is music. We all know music is so important when it comes to emotions, when it comes to memories. When we hear certain songs, we associate them with certain experiences, and that's gonna happen with your wedding as well. So pay attention to the music that you choose, and it counts as well for the music during, of course, the ceremony, just as well as during the reception and the party in the evening. So really choose music that means something to you, that you really like. But also don't save on the musicians. Sometimes couples don't know musicians, or they turn to friends and they don't really know about the quality, and once they have addressed them, they can of course not disinvite them to sing or to play music at their wedding. But musicians are not very expensive in relation to what they can do with your wedding. So think about that, and don't forget the moments in between, because of course very many think about the ceremony, that you want beautiful music there, but if you have an aperitif between the ceremony and the dinner, make sure there is a nice music, and pay attention to the fact that it should not interrupt the conversations that people want to have. And you also have elderly people who don't hear that well anymore, so it should not be any instruments that are too loud. Maybe one musician with an instrument that you like and that is not that loud. Also think about the dinner. During the dinner there should also be some music, otherwise you only have the noise of the cutlery, especially if you're in a big ballroom. But of course there again, pay attention that the music is not too loud and interfering with the conversation. And when it comes to the party, of course there you can choose your preferred music, the music that remind you of how you met your song and all the emotional moments you might already have experienced together. But also think about your guests, also all age groups. In general, the elderly will not stay that long, so in the early evening you can maybe play music from the older days, and then later on it's gonna get a bit more modern. But also for your dance, your first dance, maybe you have planned a choreography, then you know your music by heart, but also for a classical waltz, make sure that it is an emotional dance that you will cherish all your life. And whether you opt for live music or for a DJ, that's up to you. When you want your party to be a success and maybe even an open-end party, then be careful with live bands. Discuss with them that you expect that from them and that you have really covered the cost, because that can get very expensive. And also talk with them regarding their breaks, because they will be taking several breaks the longer the evening lasts, and they need to drink, and for their voices they need to be a bit careful. But then it can happen that they make the break at a point where you need the party to go on in order for the atmosphere to keep at a certain level, and that cannot always be ensured. With the DJ it's a bit easier because he doesn't have to take that many breaks, and he's not singing, and he can of course also have a few songs playing one after the other without him being there physically. So consider that when you make your budget, and you can also bring a playlist. You can even start collecting your songs half a year before your wedding when you drive in the car, and make a playlist with all the songs that you absolutely want to dance to on your wedding. So these were the 3 points: the venue, the natural flowers, and the music. And as promised, I'm going to reveal who the person is who can really help you out at no extra cost and give you very, very important tips. And we just talked about how important visual elements are, and that is the person who can help you. That is the photographer. He or she is there anyways, and she or he will talk to you in order to know what you're about, what is important to you, what style of wedding you want to have. He or she will try to grasp your personality. Had to grab my dog, he was making noises, you might have heard him. So based on that, the photographer can then make recommendations when it comes to the venues in your region, to other service providers like the florists, caterers, live bands, DJs, etc. So the photographer is key, and he will be giving you these information at no extra cost, whereas a wedding planner always gets a commission on the service providers that he or she is recommending you. Bear it in mind, choosing a good, well-established, experienced photographer can help you so much when selecting the photographer or when talking to some photographers, the questions he or she is going to ask you during the briefing are going to reveal whether he or she is a good photographer and a good partner to work with. Should they not ask you certain questions? Should they not try to understand who you are, what style of wedding you are going for, what kind of personalities you have, what is important to you, all these kind of questions. Should they not ask those questions, then please turn to somebody else. And also ask them how many weddings they have already shooted and where they were held, and if they have maybe contacts to other service providers. Be open, just talk openly, ask your questions and see how they react, and then you will know who the right one is to accompany you on that day. Because we are talking about the most memorable day in your life. And of course, who is responsible for the visual memories of that day? The photographer. So make sure that the photographer is a nice person who has interest in you and who has good references, and then you're all set, and we can go to the next point in my next video, which will be the invitations, because that is the first impression that your guests will have from your wedding. So it needs to be in line with the rest. So next week I'm going to be doing my video together with Cara Green from the Little Paper Shop in the UK. She's very experienced and successful and makes beautiful invitations, and we are going to talk you through together through this subject. Looking forward to seeing you there. Auf Wiedersehen und bis bald!